Good morning, classmates. I am Jasra Wisa Maragasi Abdullah, and I will be the last reporter on this lesson. So, we are here now in continuous and discrete. So, I'll give you the definition. First, let us have continuous data or variable. So, it is arise from the measurement of continuous variables or attributes in which individuals may differ by amounts just approaching zero. Weight and heights of children, temperature of a body, intelligence and achievement level of students, etc., are the example of continuous data. So continuous data also would literally take forever to count. For more very understandable meaning. So in fact, you would get to forever and never finish counting them. So for example, another example, the age. You can count the age. Why not? Because it would literally take forever. For example, you could be 25 years old in 10 months, 2 days, 5 hours, 4 seconds, 4 milliseconds, and so on. So let's move in discrete data. It is characterized by gaps in the scale for which no real values may ever be found. Such data is usually expressed in whole numbers. Example, size of the family, enrollment of the children, number of books, etc. are the example of discrete data. So for more understandable meaning, it is countable in a finite amount of time. For example, you can count the change in your pocket, you can count the money in your bank, in your wallet. So it might take a long time to count the last item, but the very point is it's still countable. Yes. So let's move on its differences between the two. So let us have here the for continuous data. So imagine how long it would take for you to sit down and count out the possible value or data. So, and also the temperature. Yes, the temperature is not easy to count. It would take you literally forever because there are many possible temperature in just a day. So for discrete data, if you start if your variable is number of planets around the star, then you can count all of the numbers out there because there are just a fewer data or fewer planets, so it is countable. So that is the discrete variable. And now so here are the some examples too, plotted in a box. Yes, so as you can see, you can visibly look at the difference between the two. So let's move on to primary and secondary data. So the data collected by or on behalf of the person or people who are going to make use of the data refers to the primary data. So for example, the attendance of children, the results of examinations conducted by you are the primary data. So in other words, these data are gathered by the primary person. Example, your a teacher who is the dispenser of knowledge, someone like that. And now, sometimes an investigator may use the data already collected by someone or other person, such as the school attendance of children or performance of the students for his or her study. Then the data is called the secondary data. For example, I am a researcher and this is my study, the pedagogical a teaching method of a teacher. And I found a related study, interrelated to my current research. So I will use her or the researcher's findings to become my guide or to become my resources in continuing my research. So at this point, we'll talk about grouping and tabulation of data. So yes, it is a set of data contain only a few entries. A simple listing of the observation might be sufficient for interpreting data. Yes, it is true that it is easy to interpret data if it is in a group or tabulated, and yes, if it is few entries, because it is difficult for us to list the observation or to list the data if it is too many. So it is very difficult for us to interpret such data. So the data is usually organized into groups. So it is called classes and presented in a table which gives the number of observation in each group. So we have a simplest way to organize our data. So it is famous ways. These are the ascending way and descending way. So as you notice, it is not easy to interpret a data if it is not plotted in a good way. It is not organized. Yes. For example, you can see here in my presentation the height. So it is clearly not organized or arranged. So the arrangement in ascending way is lowest to highest. For example, 139, 141, 142, 144, 145, and so on. And next, arrangement in descending way, it is highest to lowest. 156, 152, 150, 149, 148, 146, 140, and so on. So that are the two ways of organizing a data. So here are some important consideration for preparing a table. So it will help us, will guide us to better formulate or arrange our table. So preparation of a table is an art that is readable, understandable, and organized properly. So they should contain all the information needed within the smallest possible space. You will not use some flowering words or not essential words or numbers. So an ideal table should contain the following points. So these definitions written here are very understandable, self-explanatory. So number 1, table number. For easy reference and identification, a table should be numbered. Yes, you cannot a table is not what you call this, it's not perfect or it's not understandable if there is no numeric or numbers. Yes. So number 2, title. So a good table should have a clearly worded, brief and ambiguous title describing the nature of data contained in the table. So as what I have said, you will not use flowery words or not useful or not important words in there. So you will use a brief but clearly worded title. So number 3, captions. So in a table, stand for brief and self-explanatory vertical column. Captions may involve headings and subheadings as well. So for number 4, stubs. It stands for brief and self-explanatory headings of horizontal row. Normally, more important classification is given in rows. And number 5, the body of our table. So the body contains the numerical information or frequency of observation in the different cells. It is also called, many call this the literal datas. And 6, footnotes. So footnotes are given at the foot of the table for explanation of any fact or information included in the table which needs some explanations. So if there are further explanations or should be more justified or clarified, footnotes will be at a good help. And lastly, number 7, sources of data. Lastly, one should also mention the source of information. Yes, this is very important, from which the data is taken, so that we can determine or identify if it is the information are reliable or not. So this may include the name of the author, volume, page, and year of the publication. And that are the topics that are assigned to me. I hope you got some, you got a lot of knowledge about my assigned report.